Welcome back, everyone, for today's video. Today I'm going to be recapping my game I played at Chess Zone between myself and Levon Ayrapetyan. Now, one lesson I did learn from this game is that ratings are just a number, and that might give you a clue about what the result of the game was. And that whenever you see your opponent's rating, don't automatically think, oh, it's a walk in the park, I'm going to win this game with my eyes closed. Because this game was not the case, despite my opponent having a 250-point deficit in my rating. So without further ado, let's get straight into the action. So Levon starts the game with e4, and I reply with e5. After knight f3, I play my more popular Petrov defense, something I've been finessing lately, instead of knight c6, as you guys may know. Levon takes the pawn, and I go d6 to kick the knight back. The knight retreated to f3, and I play the move knight takes on e4. All theory. Levon plays the move d4, and I play the move d5. All theory again. Bishop d3, bishop d6. And Levon here strikes with c4, trying to undermine my pawn on d5 that's defending the knight. And he's actually blitzing all this stuff. He hasn't spent a minute on time yet. Thought he would be more comfortable with knight c6, but nonetheless, he's still moving really quickly, and I have used about a minute and a half at this point. I've been keeping track of the time occasionally. So I go c6 to solidify my pawn center, and after castles and castles, Levon plays the move rook e1, and I play the move rook e8, defending the knight in the center. Next, Levon plays knight c3, and I decide to trade knights. And after he takes back, he still has an extra minute on time here. I mean, not an extra minute. He hasn't used a minute on time here. And I've used about 5 at this point. So I play the move h6, just preventing any sort of bishop g5, knight g5 stuff in the future, giving my king some escape squares. And Levon plays h3, kind of mirroring my idea. Next, I play the move knight d7, developing the knight and ready to reposition it on f6 when the time is right. And Levon plays the move bishop d2, knight f6, and queen c2. So white has basically finished their development, and I need to finish my development too. So I play the move bishop to e6, and I ask the pawn what it's going to do. Is it going to take my pawn on d5? Is it going to push to c5, or is white going to defend the pawn with a move like queen to b3? And also, backing up here, I was thinking about trading on c4, but I ultimately didn't like this because it helps white's bishop get to a better diagonal, and I've given up my last center pawn, and white has still one center pawn left, and you don't really want to be having no center pawns and giving your opponent more center pawns than you do. So that's why, for that reason, I didn't take on c4. So I played the move bishop to e6 with 48 minutes on the clock. By the way, we each started this game with 60 minutes with a 5-second increment as the time control. And at this point, he had 56 minutes. So he played c5 relatively quickly, and I played the move bishop c7, retreating backwards. And Levon blitzes out rook to e2, ready to double on the e-file. And I play the move b6, ready to chip away at the c5 pawn, creating a pawn break and maybe getting more queenside play. So Levon trades on b6 and pretty quickly plays rook on a to e1. And at this point, Levon has 49 minutes on the clock, and I have around 40 minutes. And I'm thinking about what to do here. And I'm always worried about this bishop to f5 motif. So let's say I go queen d7. Well, I guess queen d7 isn't appropriate, but let's say I play like queen d6 or something. White always has the move bishop to f5, possibly. Not now, but my point is my bishop is pinned. So I play the move b5, sort of clasping down on the c4 square. And my idea is to maybe reroute my knight from f6 to d7 to b6 to c4, and that was my plan. So Levon puts his knight on e5, and I'm like, okay, that knight is not going to stay there for another day. I decide to take it. Rook takes e5, and I play the move knight d7 with my goal of going to b6 after the rook moves. But I didn't go to b6 yet because, as I said earlier, I'm worried about this bishop to f5 move. And the computer doesn't think it's particularly scary. And I can't take, obviously, because the bishop is pinned. And if I defend my bishop like this, I was concerned that after the trade, I would be left with this backwards pawn on e6 that white can put his queen on e2, and I'd have to defend it. And that pawn isn't going to go to e5 anytime soon. So, yeah, black technically has a backwards pawn on e6. So I didn't want to go into that. So I play the move queen to b6 here, and which isn't an accuracy. I mean, it doesn't really do anything, but I didn't really know what else to do. And I'm down 16 minutes on time here. And yeah, Levon pretty quickly plays the move bishop to f5, and I play knight f8, only move, defending the bishop on e6. Levon trades, and I'm actually happy that he did that because it kind of frees my position up a little bit, and I don't have to worry about that pin anymore. So I go ahead and take with the rook, and Levon takes my rook, and I take back with the knight and get it out from f8. Next, Levon plays the move rook to b1, and I play the move queen a7. I noticed that white had a isolated pawn on a2, and I was thinking about trying to attack it. So that's why I played queen a7, and it forces white to defend the pawn with either rook a1 or rook b2. Levon ended up choosing rook to b2 in this position, and I play the move knight to d8, and I'm trying to maneuver my knight from d8 to b7 to maybe d6 or a5, and then the ultimate goal of landing on c4, where my knight will be very powerful there, never getting kicked away, and yeah, it'll just be a really strong knight. Way better than white's bishop. So white played the move bishop to f4, and I'm continuing with my plan knight to b7. But bishop f4 is good because Levon played this move bishop c7. And if I go knight a5, then white will just trade the bishop for the knight, and I will never get that outpost because my knight will be gone. So I play the move rook to c8, and the bishop moved back to g3. And I played knight a5, one square away from reaching my goal. And Levon plays the move rook b1, not wanting to get attacked by the knight on c4. And yeah, I still go knight c4. I'm threatening knight a3, which is a fork on the queen and the rook. And Levon here plays the move rook a1, which apparently is a mistake. And I realize here that if ever white gets the chance to play a4, white will trade off their weak isolated pawn for my b pawn, and white will be left with that not having that weakness anymore. So for that reason, I decided to blockade the pawn entirely by playing queen a3. That way, that idea is going to be stopped for the time being, and I'm going to keep piling up on that a pawn. Best here, I guess best move was queen e7 is what the engine recommends. So after queen a3, my opponent went bishop to f4, and I understood where that bishop's going. The bishop is wanting to go to c1, where it would kick my queen away from blockading the a3 square. So in this position, I played the move rook e8, and white can't play bishop c1 now because I would have this check, and after a move like king h2, queen d6, g3, I'm not mating white or anything, but my rook is very aggressive, especially because it's pinning the bishop to the rook on the first rank, and it sort of restricts white's mobility. So for that reason, Levon did not play the move bishop to c1. He played the move king f1, which I guess makes sense. Wasn't what I was expecting. I guess his idea is to play rook to e1 and trade off my active rook. And at this point, I have 20 minutes and he has 28 minutes. And, okay, the engine here suggests to play the move g5, which I was considering, but I didn't play it. The point is that the bishop, if, like, say the bishop moves to, like, c7 or something, you have this nifty move, rook to e3, and you cannot capture this rook because you'll get forked with the knight and you'll lose your queen. And basically, you're attacking the c-pawn twice in a tactical way. So that was what the engine recommended. And if you try to cover the e3 square with your bishop with a move like bishop c1, then after the move queen to d6, black is threatening to infiltrate with the queen to h2. And if you play a move like g3 to stop it, black will play queen e6, and black's position is very active and white is very cramped. So let me just back up here. I didn't see that. I instead played the move b4, which in my mind made a lot of sense. The point is that I'm attacking the pawn twice on c3, and white can't offer a trade or anything because I'll take the queen, and then the c-pawn will be hanging. And also, after Levon takes the pawn and I take back, I was happy because I've now made the d-pawn an isolated pawn as well. So white has 2 weak pawns that they have to deal with, and I was thinking that my pieces will eventually corral those pawns and I'll win them in the long term. So for that reason, I played the move b4. Anyway, Levon played the move rook b1, attacking my queen, and for a good chunk of the game, a few minutes, I only had so much time left at this point, I was thinking about playing the move knight a3, which I thought was good because I'm forking the queen and the rook, but in my mind I saw that this was bad because after white takes my queen and I take their queen, it looks great because my knight is threatening the rook, threatening the pawn, and rook to e1 is threatened. But white has this clever move, rook to b8, and I can't play rook e1 checkmate because my rook is pinned to my king. So I'm basically forced to take his rook. Bishop takes, knight takes, and then white has this move, and I saw they have this move bishop to e5. And eventually white is going to start motoring their a-pawn down the board, bring their king in, and white's a-pawn is more dangerous than my c and d pawns. I evaluated this in my head. So I didn't go for this line, and it's a good thing I didn't, because I would have been in a worse position. I instead, with 15 minutes on my clock, I play the move queen e7, and Levon plays the move queen d3, I guess sort of waiting what I'm going to do. And I played this move queen e4, which I thought was a great move. Point is that I'm attacking the queen and I'm attacking the bishop, and white is essentially forced to trade queens with me. But after the rook takes back, you'll notice that the rook is attacking the pawn and it's attacking the bishop. So I end up winning a pawn in this position. So Levon played the move bishop e3, and you guys might be thinking, oh, I can win a minor piece here. Takes, and knight d2, I'm winning the game. Not so fast, because after rook takes e3, white has this move rook to b8 check, and after king h7, white will take the rook on e3, and I'll be down in exchange. So, for that reason, rook takes e3 does not work. So, I play knight e3, takes, and I'm up a pawn in this rook endgame. And this is move 40. We're about to play move 40. And you wouldn't believe that this game would go on for another 32 moves. So 72 moves total. I try to win this rook endgame. White plays the move rook to c1. And I decide which pawn should I attack. If I play the move rook a3, then after white takes my pawn and I take their pawn, I saw white would play this move rook c5. And my extra pawn perishes because I cannot defend the pawn on d5. It's still a draw, but I wouldn't want to lose my pawn like that. So for that reason, I played the move rook to d3. That way, I still have an extra pawn left. And in this position, after Levon played the move rook to a6, he offered me a draw. And I declined because, one, I'm higher rated, and two, I'm up a pawn, and have winning chances. So we decided to play on. I played the move rook to d2, cutting the king off, keeping it on the first rank, and Levon starts pushing his a-pawn. I get behind it, and Levon plays rook a8, check, king h7, a5, king g6, a6, d4, a7, and eventually we're going to trade a for d-pawn, probably. I play the move d3. We don't exactly trade a for d-pawn. Levon played the move king to e1, and we each had about 10 minutes at this point. I play the move f5, trying to make some progress on the king side. Levon is basically wasting time, not really achieving anything. He played the move g3, and I played the move king g5. It's important that my king isn't vulnerable to a check by the rook, because that would result in the queening of the a-pawn. But my pawn on g7 shields the king from any checks, so just keep that in mind. So Levon played the move king to d1, and I played the move h5. And yeah, h5, I'm trying to waste move. I'm not really trying to do anything. Maybe I'll make a breakthrough in the king side with like h4, f4. That was my idea. So Levon is shuffling back and forth with the king, and I play the move g6. And after king to d1 again, we each had 8 minutes at this point. I played the move f4. I'm trying to be a bit tricky. And after takes, king h4. Very important to not take the pawn, because rook f8 check, followed by queening of the a-pawn. So I hide my king on h4, and I'm preparing to win the h3 pawn. So Levon played the move rook to g8. And after takes and takes, I play the move rook a2, sealing the king in the first rank. And I thought this was winnable, but it ended up being a draw. According to the engine. So after f5, I go behind the f-pawn with rook f2, f6, king takes h3, and Levon plays the move king e1, and I play the move d2 check. Obviously, you cannot take the rook because I would queen, so he's forced to go back to d1. And I play the move h4, advancing my pawn. Levon decides to trade f for d-pawns, so I take the f-pawn, he takes my d-pawn. And I thought first that this is a winnable endgame because, number one, I'm cutting off the king from ever trying to stop the pawn. My rook is controlling all of the f-file. And that's very important because often in these types of positions, the king is assisting in stopping the pawn. But because the king is cut off, that's not possible. But because this is a rook pawn, it's a draw, and I'll show you why later. So king h2, king e2, h3, king e1, king h1, king e2, h2, king e1. And this might look familiar to you guys. This is the Lucena position, where the king is blocking the promotion square of the pawn. Only problem is that this is a rook pawn, and there is no I file, right? There is another column of the board called the I file. I could move my king to the left and build the classic bridge on the fourth rank, but obviously the chessboard does not extend that far, so my king is confined to the H file. So for that reason, it's a draw. If this were B through G pawn, then this would be a win for black, but because it's an H pawn, I cannot do the Lucena position. Still, I try for tricks. I play the move rook a7, king f1, rook a1 check, king f2, not letting my king out, rook g1, rook a6, rook check, king f1. We each had about 3 minutes at this point. Rook g8, king f2, rook f8, king g3, rook f1, trying to stop the check on a1, and rook a2. And here in this position, he offered me a draw, and I accepted the draw because my h-pawn is double attacked, and if I play check, white will play king h3, and the pawn on h2 is going to fall. And it's just going to be a rook versus rook endgame, which is drawn 99 times out of 100, such as in this case. So we ended up getting a draw against someone lower rated, but if you take a look at the game accuracy, we both played a very high level game, 94.3 accuracy and 94.6 accuracy. And if you take a look at the opening accuracy, his was 98.9, mine was 99.0. His middle game accuracy was 87.8, mine was 89.8. Endgame was 98, and mine was 97.3. So this was a really high-level game, not many mistakes at all. We both played really well. This could be comparable to a master-level game. And yeah, especially for 1500, this kid played really well, especially. He made me work for the draw. And I was trying to trick him, but he didn't fall for any of my traps that I was trying to set in this rook and pawn endgame. So it sucks that we didn't win against someone lower rated, but at the same time, it's satisfying seeing how the accuracy was so high. So with that, I'm going to wrap it up by saying thank you guys for watching, and I hope you got something out of this video. Leave a comment, like the video, and don't forget to smash that subscribe button below. And until next time, bye.